Hey guys, today we're going to be walking through how to rebuild your standard Ninja regulator or your Ultralite regulator. The steps as well as the rebuild kit will be the same for the standard Ninja and the Ultralite regulators, and this can be completed with the regulator mounted to a tank or unmounted as shown here. In the standard rebuild kit, we get the burst disc manual, a fully assembled piston complete with the nylon ball and 2 pre-installed O-rings. We get the 1800 psi burst disc as well as the replacement valve seat and replacement rivet seat, which gets installed in the rivet inside of the fill valve. We also get 2 additional bonnet set screws and 2 replacement pressure shims. Warning: safety is always a priority when working with high pressure air systems, so if you have the regulator attached to a bottle, you want to make sure you vent all the pressure from the system before moving to the next step. This can be accomplished by removing the top O-ring from the regulator and attaching the system to an ASA to vent the pressure out of the system. When doing this, you'll first want to activate the ASA and then slowly screw the tank on until you hear the air start to vent from the tank. Once the air has stopped venting from the tank, you can unmount it from the ASA and continue to the next step. Once empty, we will verify that the tank has been completely degassed and is free of pressure by depressing the valve at the very top. If no pressure remains, this should push down quite easily. Once we have verified that the tank is completely empty of any pressure, we can move to the next step. To kick off the rebuild, we will start by removing the bonnet set screws. There will be 1 on each side of the regulator. Once we have fully removed those set screws, we're going to grab the very top and the very bottom of the regulator and twist in opposite directions to separate the 2 halves. This should screw off quite easily. However, if you notice this section is difficult to separate, then stop, immediately pause this video, and vent the rest of the pressure out of the tank. Once we have taken care of that, come back and resume the video. If the bonnet is still hard to remove after verifying there is no pressure left in the tank, we have the option of using a soft jaw wrench, or alternatively, we can wrap the bonnet in electrical tape or any other thick tape to avoid scuffs and use a set of channel locks to free the bonnet. However, we do want to be careful when removing this, as too much pressure could deform the bonnet and make it unusable. After you've broken the bonnet free, make sure to remove the tape to avoid any residue being left behind. Once we have the 2 halves separated, we'll set the bonnet assembly to the side and jump into the body of the regulator. In the body, you should see this spring, which might be covered by the piston if the piston did not get removed in the bonnet assembly. If the piston is in the body of the regulator, go ahead and remove it, followed by the spring, and set them both to the side. Next, we want to remove those shims that are hiding in the body, either with a magnet, which is my preferred method as it makes for a little bit of an easier removal, or if you don't have access to a magnet, you can also flip the body of the regulator over and tap it on your hand or a firm but soft touch surface to remove those shims. Once we have the shims out, we're going to want to use isopropyl alcohol and a cotton swab to clean the body out until nothing else comes off onto the cotton swab. After a thorough cleaning of this section, we're going to replace any worn or damaged shims with the shims that came in the rebuild kit, followed by the spring that we had removed at the start. Now, we're ready to work on the bonnet. If your piston remains in the bonnet, firmly grasp the top of the bonnet and the very bottom of the piston with your fingers, and rock the piston side to side while pulling it apart to free it from the bonnet assembly. If you have the ball style valve, you want to take extra care here to ensure you don't lose the valve, as removal of this piston will relieve the spring pressure that holds the ball valve in place. If you have the pin style valve like we have here, it should come out altogether, but in some cases you might have the pin and spring come out separately. Before we install the new piston, we're going to apply some silicone lubricant to the O-rings of the piston. Make sure you are only using silicone lubricant in the regulator and ensure it is the paste or cream lubricant. Do not use oil or petroleum-based lubricant on or in the regulator or system. Any silicone paste or cream lubricant that is safe for a paintball marker will be safe for this application as well. If we have any leaks coming from the very top of the regulator, then we'll want to replace the valve seat located at the very top of the bonnet. This can be done by using an O-ring pick, a pin, or another fine-pointed tool to poke the seat out through the top of the bonnet. Once removed, we will replace it with the seat that came in the rebuild kit and use a pencil or other blunt, flat-tipped object to press the seat back into place. A good signifier that the seat has been properly installed is that when you flip the bonnet over and tap it on your hand, the seat stays firmly in place. After replacement of the valve seat and lubrication of those O-rings, we are going to reassemble the bonnet assembly starting with the valve and the spring. We will drop the pin and spring in top of the piston and then line everything up in the bonnet. Once we have that valve lined up and poking through, we're going to gently press everything into place in the bonnet. Once we have the piston seated into place, we can recouple the 2 halves together. To recouple the 2 halves together, we're going to screw the top and the bottom of the regulators together until completely tightened. A good signifier that the 2 halves are tightened down completely will be the lack of a gap between the body and bonnet. Or, if you look into the holes of the set screws, You will be able to see the indentations from the initial installation of the set screws. Once we can see those indentations are centered or that there is no gap in the two halves, then we can install the set screws. Once we have those in, we're going to use a 3/8 inch wrench to break our burst disc free and then remove it the rest of the way by hand. Our burst discs do not use any Loctite or Teflon tape, but we're still going to want to clean out this port to ensure the burst disc makes a proper metal-on-metal seal in the regulator. When the port has been fully cleaned out, we will swap the old disc out with the burst disc included in the rebuild kit and hand tighten it until the disc stops. Once again, do not install with any Teflon tape or Loctite. Once it has been hand tightened, we will use a torque wrench, which can be found at any hardware store, to torque the burst disc down to 55 to 85 inch-pounds, being careful not to over-tighten the burst disc as this can cause the part to snap off. When the burst disc has been fully installed, we will want to slow fill the system to 1000 psi to get the piston, valve, and rivet in place without slamming the nylon ball seat in and causing damage to the seat. Once everything has been properly seated into place, you can fully pressurize the system, check for leaks, and then you're good to get right back on the field. If you have any questions, please get in contact with us or a local certified airsmith for further assistance.